Hi, kids. As you know, this is our last week of school, and we decided to do what we normally would have been doing the last few weeks of school, and that is Multicultural Week. Most of you probably maybe have already finished your packet or just getting started this week, but everyone should have had one of these. They came in your bags that you picked up from the school. Now, there are some bags left in the office still, so if you haven't got yours yet, you need to contact the office soon, like now, and come in and pick yours up if you haven't yet. Anyway, each classroom has a different country and place that they talk about. I happen to do Northwest Coast Indians, and that's where we live, okay? And there's a rich history of coastal Indians here in Washington and throughout the coast. And we go over just some stuff that is important to them, some symbolisms that you guys got in the packets, and we'll talk about those right now. So in your packet, you would come across some cool stuff like this bear mask. Okay, it would have been used for decorative times, for potlatches, which is kind of like a barbecue now, if you think about it, where people would come over, celebrate, and all kinds of things like that. These would be used for decorative pieces like that. Okay. We have the Thunderbird. The Thunderbird is a mythical creature that Native Americans believed, the coastal Native Americans believed, created thunder, lightning, and was a very powerful creature. Couple of the stories in this book that I'll read to you guys over Class Dojo, for example, just to give you a quick little peek. It says, certain Northwest Coast Indian tribes, particularly the Coatl, believed that the high up in the sky there lived a creature of great strength who was helpful to man. Okay, he looked like a giant eagle with curled horns at the top of his head. Okay, and that's what you see in this picture. And when his wings flapped, that's what caused the thunder. And when he opened his eyes, they believe that's when the lightning came out. Okay, like I said, that's a mythical creature. Next, I showed you a bear mask, and this is actually the bear totem figure. Okay, just like that last one I showed you. The bear in Pacific Northwest Coast mythology could transform into different things, okay, such as a person. And the bear represented great strength because of how physically strong they are to coastal tribes. Next, we have the river otter. Now, the river otter is a special one because one of the pages in your book has totem figures, and we'll get to that in a little bit. But the river otter would have never been on a totem pole, okay? So the river otter had special meaning. So tribes would have a member who would be called a shaman, and a shaman would be like a doctor in our society today, okay? And the river otter presented them with magical capabilities, they believed. So on their instruments that they would use to perform ceremonies, they would have little carvings of the river otter on it, and they also believed it warded off bad spirits. So on baby rattles, they would, yes, baby rattles, they had baby rattles way back then too. They would carve little river otter symbols onto those, and it was believed to protect the children. Next is the raven. And if you look closely, you'll see a little circle there in the mouth. And I'll read a story this week that I'll put out, and it's about how the raven brought the sunlight to the earth, okay? And so that little ball right there is the sun, okay? And so you'll hear that story later. Anyway, the raven was a trickster. It liked to pull tricks, but it also liked to help people. So in order to do some of those tricks that it did, it picked the people who were doing wrong, and it was able to fix things, okay? It could also transform too, and it can also turn into other things that weren't animals. For example, in the story you'll hear, it turned into a pine needle, like off a tree, okay? So, that was the raven. Next, we have the killer whale, or an orca, okay? Now, the killer whale was treated with great respect by coastal Indians. It was not hunted, okay? But it was represented all throughout their tribes because of its great importance. Whale hunting was a big piece of their traditions, their cultures. They would, when they would whale hunt and they brought a whale back, those people, the whale hunters, were revered in society as great heroes because it would bring lots of food. Now, remember, in the 1800s, guys, there wasn't grocery stores, there wasn't places to just go get food. They had to hunt and gather for everything. And so whale hunting would have been one of the big ones. Next, we have the salmon. And obviously, salmon is one of the most important food items they had because of their access to the ocean, okay, and rivers. They would fish for salmon and have that, they would use that meat and they would dry it out over the winter too, and they would have like fish jerky basically for storage over the winter to have food then too. Okay, now the last thing I wanted to kind of cover with you guys in the packet was how to make a totem pole. Now I left a little note in here that said to get an empty paper towel roll, okay, and you can cut these figures out and put them on your totem pole. Now each one tells you what they represent. For example, the bear, the first one, was a symbol of strength, like we just talked about, okay? And there's a couple other figures that weren't inside the packet, like beaver, frog, okay, a snake, and a wolf, okay? And you can read about those on the bottom of the image. So I want you guys to see some real totem poles. So I have here all hand-carved ones of Pacific Northwest Coast tribes. And as the camera zooms in, you guys can see some of the great detail that they carved into these. Now this is all one piece of wood, hand-carved and decorated, okay? A great example of a totem pole that's kind of close would be in Tumwater when you're crossing over the bridge. It's on both sides of the road, left and right, okay? So, that's all I have for you about that. I'll be presenting a few stories this week, and I hope you guys are getting all your work done, and summer's coming. Bye.